Hi everyone, welcome back to Aux Fiends. We're here with another episode reviewing yet another album. I'm here with my co-host Mateo. Mateo, how you doing?
Good. I'm excited. Rishabh, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. We're doing a little bit of a late night session for recording this particular album. It's about
Yeah, we are.
so if we sound a little bit delirious, you'll know why. But I think we're good to go.
Yeah. All right. Oh,
Mateo?
I think we should say before we even get into it, we like to say this at the top of the episode. If you have not recently listened to the full album or at least some of the specific tracks, we really do recommend you do. We just find it's a better experience overall if you actually can, if you know the songs, because we just go track by track over on a whole album and just overall just be better. Otherwise, we're just saying stuff about songs you don't know about, you know?
Yep,
But
and the way the podcast works is basically we go and basically choose an album. And so for this week, it's Mateo's pick. Next week, it's going to be my pick, and we basically talk about the album each week or whenever these episodes come out.
yeah, you're a little generous with each week.
Each
Rashawn.
week, I know that's a little more than generous. It's like way too.
Yeah,
You ask
it's
me.
more like each episode. Don't even give a time frame. Don't even get a time frame.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyways, without further ado, this week was my week. I picked "Pennied Days" by Night Moves. So this album came out in 2016. It was Night Moves. Their sophomore album, so their second album. I'll just get it out now. They're indie. There is not a ton of information online about them. They have like one line on Wikipedia. They're just indie. They don't have a ton of info. I don't know what else to say. I tried. I looked into it. I just couldn't find a bunch. But basically, if you want to know about them, they're indie alt rock band that started in Minneapolis. The best kind of gist I could say, but what kind of music they make, it's kind of like psychedelic pop with a heavy twist of space surf rock. Did you say that kind of sums it up, Rashab?
I'm going to actually challenge that
Vibes?
categorization a little bit as we get into our.
Oh,
That's all.
okay.
I think that's it's interesting that people place them in those categories. I kind of disagreed, but we'll get into it. I think that's
Whoa.
not entirely wrong what they're going after there. We can go.
Okay.
Into it. Yeah.
We're already off to a fiending start.
I
But,
guess we are. I'm fiending on your info this time, just factual.
my info. I don't know. I didn't know I could get wrong on this info, Rashab.
All right.
Without further ado, I think we should jump right into it into the first track. Carl Sagan, Rashab, what did you think?
Well, Mateo, first of all, just before we get into the tracks, not to cut on your flow here, but what is your expectation of what I would think of this album overall? I'm curious to know. What I thought about while I was listening to is I wonder what
I
think.
I think you would maybe lean towards liking it. I'm pretty, if I recall correctly, I think you do like more indie music, but I guess with how I categorized it with the information, you were like, you weren't agreeing. So maybe this isn't the type of indie kind of stuff you like. I don't know. I would think though, I definitely didn't make this as a mean pick. I would think you would lean towards liking it overall.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
what
Thanks
I'd
for
say.
letting me know that. And with that, I'm going to review the first track, which Mateo, I thought this was a really nicely crafted and rich alt rock sound. How's about that?
Ooh, I like this. Keep going. I like the sound of this.
You're liking this? I thought the
Yeah.
vocals complemented the instrumentation here really well. I liked how clean and sharp the audio engineering and overall production of this track was. I think the chorus is great. I love the alt rock guitar. And here's coming to some of your info and challenging it a little bit. I think psychedelic, like frankly, when you said psychedelic, even on the last episode, let's just say I had a very different mental image of this album. I thought it would be like mostly psychedelia music, but it was actually, in my opinion, a very like traditional alt rock album. And I say that mostly in a good way. I think it's, kind of like this straight shot of alt rock sound. It has some, I would say, influences of like pop rock and maybe even folk music. And I'll defend that assertion in a little bit here. But yeah, it's kind of like poppy alt rock that's traditional. I thought Carl Sagan was a very well mixed track. And I'll talk about the mixing a lot in this album. It's something that I really appreciated throughout the album. But yeah, we can get into this a little bit later. But for me, I really see this entire album as a very traditional alt rock album. It sounds very familiar in to other alt rock music that I've listened to before. And yeah, I think Carl Sagan's a very good start to the album.
Okay, I'll take the good start.
That's
I
good.
will fight a little bit with you on the psychedelic pop. Maybe I emphasize like a little too much for the genre of Pennied
Yeah.
Days, but I feel like, especially in other songs and later on in the album, you can hear some of the dissonance. It's definitely nothing like a King Crimson or super psychedelic just out there. I will
Right.
definitely say that, but like I definitely would say it has hints of psychedelia kind of in there. It's
Yeah.
definitely like psych pop, I'd say. I don't
Yes.
think it's
Yeah.
pop rock. I don't think it's I think the only kind of rock you could say it is like alt rock, which you said,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I don't think it's psychedelic rock. I think it's just like
No.
psychedelic pop, alt
Yeah.
rock,
Yeah.
just combination of them all.
I would say I agree with you. I was surprised that like I don't know where you got your info from. I'm assuming Wikipedia, but or somewhere on the internet. But I was surprised that they put psychedelia like so high up there in the genre listings. It's clearly there. Like I'm not saying it's not there. It's
Yeah.
hint, like you said. So for me, like I would just categorize this probably as alt rock, and as a second or third genre, I think I would put psychedelia rock. The surf space element that you brought up, I can see it, but I feel like
Wow, you better see the surf space. That's
I
like the definition of this album.
I don't think so, Mateo. Like I mean, I really think I can see it. But here's my defense: is that like I feel personally that a lot of alt rock music kind of delves into these spaces anyway. So it is kind of
Mm,
together, which is why I make like this bracket of alt rock, which is what I would say is like the first genre listing. You know what I mean?
okay.
But anyway, let's
I guess,
diverge
I
off
guess.
too much.
Yeah, we don't want to get off too much until like the end when we talk about the whole album. But
Right.
I'll give my thoughts now on Carl
Yeah.
Sagan. To me, I thought it was fruity. I thought it was beachy. There's that surf space rock. To me, I thought it was a great opener. It kind of gives you a taste of what this album is as a whole, I think at least. The instruments and lyrics are beautiful summer serenade. Just like I think it just all blends together well. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely up there overall in the
Interesting.
songs.
I I'm glad we both enjoyed the first track, but I do think that like the summary sound, I just don't see it in this album. Maybe here or there a little bit,
Mm,
but and that's not like a harp on the album. I'm just saying like personally, I don't identify like a very summary sound throughout the album. But we'll talk about the
mm.
other tracks. I don't want to
Okay.
keep after which genre this is.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I think I was
Denise, don't. Yeah, go for the next track. Go ahead.
okay. Yeah, Denise, don't want to see you cry. You're gonna disagree. I mean, there's another beach song. Is like to me, the Denise don't want to see you cry has a change of vibe, which to me relied more on like the instruments instead of the
Yeah,
vocals, instead of the usual kind of blend, which I actually did like.
yeah.
Overall, this was kind of just like an indie love song. Gonna get what you kind of
Mhm.
expect. That's what I thought.
I felt like it carried over the style from the initial track. I wouldn't say it was a super big change of pace, but I could differentiate the tracks, I think.
Hmm.
Um, Again, like I'll say for the mixing on this entire album, I think that's one of my favorite aspects of it. And then probably my number two is like the actual vocals. So I would say like the mixing, what I find really interesting here is that, and this is pretty typical with other alt rock albums too, is that there's usually like a higher emphasis on loud instrumentation, and I think this album gets that right really well. So like guitars, drums, loud backing vocals, and then putting it against like these sort of raspier vocals.
Yeah.
I sounded really good. And some of the vocals, and I mean this in a very good way, it reminded me of like 80s rock music, which is maybe where you're also kind of maybe that's what you're identifying as like a summer sound potentially.
Okay. Yeah, no,
Uh
I actually definitely agree. Sorry not to interrupt your flow either.
no,
I
go,
definitely
go.
agree with what you said about the 80s rock. Not on this one particular, but there's one later on where I'm like, well, this is a total 80s vibe. And I even wrote like it's 80s beachy vibe. So I think we might just have different definitions overall of kind of what I feel is a summery beachy vibe, you know.
Yeah.
But sorry to interrupt. Go back.
Like if we're going into like like the vibe definitions, I would say like music like this in general for me, and like, you know, overall alt rock like as a genre for me, it very much feels, this is going to sound kind of opposite to what you're saying, Mateo, but maybe it's actually more similar than we think. Like it just sounds like a really warm sweater to me on a cold day, because the instrument's loud, it's dense, but it's not like, you know, especially with alt rock music, it's not like dream pop where it's super cinematic. Like it's not very like dreamy, but it's also not like a heavy rock like metal sound. It's like somewhere right in the middle. And I love the genre for that reason. And I think, you know, in this album in particular, I liked how it, well, we'll get into it, but I liked how it stuck to some really core traditional elements of alt rock. So yeah, this was a good.
I think I can see what you're saying about kind of the sweater weather ish. I think we just have more different definitions of what we kind of attribute that to. Like
Maybe
what you're talking about, I'm thinking of, okay, it's maybe got done raining, it's Pacific Northwest vibes or something. It's like fall. But to me, this is like, this album just kind of, I'm already jumping to the end too much, but it just kind of, especially in this song too, it was just like, it just makes me feel like I just had like a road trip. And it's like the end of the road trip. And that's what I mean by kind of summary vibes. Maybe it's not in the action.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the result of the fun times. And now this is kind of just like looking back. I definitely think you see that on Denise Don't Want to See You Cry.
That's kind of like, in my opinion, one of the most like beautiful things about alt rock as a genre is that it has like the heft of a rock song. Like it has like, you know, the loud guitars, loud drums.
Yeah.
But there's also like this very contemplative layer to it, almost always with most artists. And then the lyrics are often a little bit more thoughtful. So it's very much like this combination of things. And I feel like this album is a very good starter alt rock album. I think anyone who's interested in this genre, I would direct them here. Maybe a few other albums as well. But this is very traditionally good alt rock so far. We'll get into the rest of the tracks.
Oh, wow. Rishabh, I think that's the Bible. We agree.
That's like several episodes in a row, I think. But we'll get into the ratings.
We're gonna go back to the track list. We gotta go back to the track list. We'll talk about the album at the end.
See, here's what happens when you record a podcast with me at 12 a.m. I go off script.
You're going off script, Rishabh. I'm
tell. Going off script. I'm like, let's start reviewing the album right now. Anyway.
Okay. You know what's about to make me go off script? The third track. Leave Your Light On. I don't hate it. I just thought this was like I hate to say it, Night Moves, if you're listening, stop listening here. I just thought this wasn't the most creative song on the album. I got like Toy Story vibes. I thought it was a little too repetitive with the acoustic guitar. And really what just kind of saddens me is like, I know, and you literally can see it in the album, I know they can do better. I just felt like this was more of their kind of hands off, you know, they just needed to put a song in. And this is what we kind of got with Leave Your Light On.
Yeah, I would say it's not one of the strongest tracks on the album. I won't be as harsh as you were, Mateo. I think really for me, what I like about this particular track maybe is that it has more of like a folksy vibe to it. I think honestly, I don't know who the lead vocalist is, but whoever the lead vocalist is in this band, I think like he has a really good like raspy tenor to his voice, which I think lends it that folk feeling. And I felt like this song kind of captured that a little bit. Although I will say it was kind of like a little bit of rackety noise at one point, and I felt like it was getting a little bit messy. But not terrible. Also not the best. So we're kind of in agreement.
We're kind of in agreement. Oh, I forgot to say this too. This is my least favorite song on the album. Okay. But I want to make this very clear. I don't think this was terrible. Like, if you put on any song of the album, I wouldn't say turn it off, basically is what I'm saying.
I would agree with that.
To me, it was just like the most forgettable one. I thought, and I know they can do more better than that. That's it.
Yeah, that's fair enough, I think.
Yeah.
Which I think should take us into our next track. By the way, this is a relatively short album, especially compared to the albums we've been covering recently. We've had some longer ones. But Border on Border, Mateo, what'd you think?
And Rishabh, we are back into Night Moves. That's what Border on Border is. Bringing
Yeah,
it back, bringing back the vibes. Like that piano, I thought it was creative with the kind of like vibration of the song. I really
yeah,
mess with the synth kind of usage. I thought it was a great combination of, like you were saying, the vocals. I think the vocals were absolutely beautiful. I thought the front kind
yeah.
of vocals and the back vocals just really were fluid together and combined just to make a really good
Mhm.
harmony. And I just thought it was overall, like, I cannot give enough respect to the lead vocalist. I thought his like voice fluctuations, especially in this song, were just really amazing overall. Rashab, what did you think of Border on Border?
I was going to add really quickly. It's funny, right? Because here on Aux Fiends, we do a lot of variety of music, so it's really interesting. We talked about Maria Tchaikovskaya's like that was our last album, and we were talking about how like classical her vocals are, and here with alt rock, you're getting like more of a rocky, raspy voice, and it's still like
Yeah.
its own charm, and it works for this album really well. So I agree with you. I thought the lead vocalist on here is really good and very talented. And Border on Border was a solid track. I think the piano definitely caught me off guard in a good way.
Yeah.
It felt like a little bit of a pivot for the album, which I think so far the tracks feel very similar, although there's more differentiation here than maybe in some of the upcoming songs. But still, this was a good track. I like the sweeping sound that the piano created. I liked, again, the instrumentation was solid. I don't think they broke any new ground anywhere here yet, but it's still really well made. Like, I enjoyed the loud backing instrumentation. I like the like sort of rollicking flavor that gives the album or the song. I like the bridge that was here. Solid, I would say, overall.
Yeah.
Mateo?
Sorry, dude. 12 a.m. I'm going off script too.
Oh boy.
But
Welcome back to
no,
the podcast, by the way. This is some after hours level stuff.
these are late night after hours
Late
podcasts. Yeah.
night. This is sort of a
No,
late night album. It's
you know
fun
what, Rashab?
later at night.
I agree. What is this? What is this bizarro world? We're agreeing.
It's
Yeah, I
it's
mean, I didn't
called
really
12
disagree
a.m.
with.
Aux Fiends.
Yeah, I didn't really disagree with anything that you said about Border on Border.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was great vocal. I already said it. Yeah. I think we should just move on to the next track. Kind Luck.
kind of
Rashab,
luck.
take it away.
I like this track as well. Unsurprising, I think, at this point. This one, okay, I'm just trying to gather my thoughts here and remember this track. So this is the one I think that had really simple, loud, sort of string guitar in it.
Yeah.
A mix of like folk, pop, alt rock vocals. Felt a lot of that warm sweater vibe in this track. Felt like there's a lot of warmth to it. I always feel that way with alt rock. I just feel like the instrumentation is so dense and loud. It kind of just at one point it like covers you up in like this warm blanket of sound. And I thought this track did it pretty well. So like kind luck. Mateo, what do you think?
Good, Rashab. To me, this was the complete kind of opposite of Leave Your Light On. I thought this had great use of like what you had mentioned, the acoustic guitar. I
Mhm.
thought the instrumentation was great, especially mixed in and blending with the vocals. I think overall, why I really like this one is because they got creative with it compared to Leave Your Light On. I just thought it was way more creative. I really felt the power of the vocals with
Mhm.
specifically the lyrics. I even wrote some down when exactly I was like, "Whoa, this is powerful." It's a specific line, and it keeps you running along. He goes crazy with the alongs. It's like I just think it's really good
Yeah,
overall.
I think it's a solid track as well.
Yeah.
which I think leads us into our next track, which is obviously the longest track on the album. I think this
Yeah.
clocks in at more than 7 minutes.
Yeah,
Which,
it is.
Mateo, let's talk about this in a more general terms. I get extremely
Okay.
wary and nervous whenever I see the very long track because I feel like there's only like very few artists who can fill up that length of a track with real substance throughout. And I will say, thankfully, I was surprised to find that this was one of those tracks that I felt like, yes, it earned every second that it had. I felt like there was a real, genuine composition here that was worth listening to. So I initially thought this would be like a longer, slower ballad, but to be very honest, I think overall the band pretty much goes for a very similar-ish vibe for most of the songs, and I felt like this one was a little bit different, but still on the same level. The synergy of the vocals and instrumentation was fantastic. I liked how they slowed down the tempo when it was necessary to build up the song and create some of those bridges. Loved the drumming on this. The all instrument section towards the end was great. I liked that it ended on a fade out. And for me, this was my favorite track on the album. But,
Ooh.
but,
But
but, I will say
what?
it absolutely kills me that this is not either the second to last or last album track. Because after the
Huh.
track ended, I'll be really honest, it really affected my listening of the next three tracks. For me, I was done here. Not because like the other three tracks are absolutely horrible, but I felt like this was a closer track stuck in randomly in a very odd place. That's what I have to say about it, but it is my favorite track and it's worth the 7 minutes. Mateo.
Agree with. I'm really glad you liked it, and that's your favorite too.
Yeah.
I usually personally don't pay attention too much about placements. I don't really care about placements unless it's the opening or ending track. I don't. I can see what you mean with hiding on the melody to be maybe like the second to last. I mean, not to jump ahead to only to live in your memories. I personally find that song's a good ender. Maybe just because Hiding in the Melody was actually my first introduction to night moves as a whole. Maybe that's why
Yeah.
to me it doesn't matter as much because I already knew this song was coming in. It's absolutely fantastic. But to
It's
me,
a
the
solid,
placement,
really good song for sure.
yeah, it's just a solid song. I definitely agree with what you said, where they earn every second of their 7 minutes and 26-second song.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
this is my by far definite favorite night move song. To me, it's a classic. It's the song of the summer. There's radiant vocals, innovative instruments, original lyrics, and tranquil vibes. It's beachy as hell. The absolute blend between the vocals and the instrumentation is incredible. It just feels like they're kind of dancing and a serenade, like back and forth, the vocals and the instruments. The song just, to me, it just transports you onto a road trip. This Hiding in the Melody would just forever be in my heart. I just love this song overall. Everything about it.
Wow,
It's a to me this it's a 10 out of 10 song.
dang, that was definitely more passionate than I was, but I agree. It's a really solid alt rock track, and they pulled off like a 7 minute alt rock track, which is frankly pretty hard to do. So I
Yes.
give them a lot of credit for that. I really, really, really enjoyed this track.
Yeah.
Uh,
To me, I
yeah,
want to say this too. I thought it was the perfect length. I would have
yeah, no,
been.
yeah.
They need credit where it's due. Like I don't know other alt rock bands that can really pull off a 7 minute track
It's
where
hard.
when you get in 3 to 4 minutes and you're like, okay, I'm bored, I'm done. But
Yeah,
Night Moves just does it with Hiding in the Melody. They just do
yeah,
it.
I
I'm there
agree.
for the ride.
I guess the main reason it's hard to pull off a really long track with alt rock is because the main instruments are pretty limited usually. But I felt like overall the structure and composition of this track kind of lent itself to a long 7 minute track. And so they did a good job of structuring that out. And I didn't feel like I was getting, yeah, like angsty or lost or, come kind of zoning out because of the music. It didn't feel really repetitive. I felt like there was new stuff happening in the track and it was worth listening to and a good investment. And yeah, my favorite track on the album. So which I think leads us nicely into our next track, Starlight Stroll. I hope I'm getting that right. Mateo, what do you think?
I don't know how to say that. Starlight Stroll. I don't know.
I think so.
This was actually the track that I thought had a lot of the '80s kind of vibes,
Okay.
but obviously it has the classic night moves. For me, at least, Beach Twist. If I'm being honest, I think the last like minute could have just kind of been cut. Like
Uh-huh.
it's Aux Fiend tradition, I have to say it. I don't feel that the whole song is an interlude, but that last minute was definitely an interlude.
Yeah.
Like,
This
Rishabh, what did you think? Because if I'm being honest, I didn't care for that dissonant sound at the end. Like the
I'll say
interlude,
this.
wherever that was. I'm like, that could have just been cut. The
Yeah.
first part was all right.
I'll say this is my least favorite track. And the reason is, here's the thing, is that I feel like the next three tracks after Hiding in the Melody kind of were just stalled for me. It didn't feel like the next three tracks really ended the album in a super satisfying way for me. I felt like everything up till Hiding in the Melody, I was feeling pretty invested. And I'm not gonna say this is a terrible track. I just think it's one of the weaker ones. It feels a little bit more generic, which I think is like. And I already said that the album feels traditional in many ways in its alt rock style, but there are times that there's sort of this sense of genericness that permeates because I feel like there was maybe a little bit more room for a little bit more experimentation here and there. And maybe they tried that a little bit with the outro. But overall, I felt like this track, especially when you're following up to my favorite track, and which just came out um, like a few minutes ago, it felt like it stalled for me.
Okay. I think you might be a little too harsh.
Wait till you
But
get to my
if I'm being
album review,
honest,
Mateo.
okay.
I'm being honest.
I know.
I, I
I
would
know,
say,
I know you're being honest.
yeah.
You didn't even let me finish, Rashab. We're
Go
already
ahead. Go
fiending,
ahead.
dude. I was about to say, but you know what? For Starlight Stroll, I'm not gonna defend it. See, Rashab, I know it's your review.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna defend this one. If it was any others, if you said those words on Hiding the Melody, podcast would be done. No way.
Yeah.
But for
Would be a
this,
big fiend.
I can kind of understand. Yeah.
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 Which I think leads me into my review for Alabama. Again, not terrible. The vocals and the piano are nice. This is the one where I really felt like the 80s vibe was coming for me. It's a little bit more poppy, but also like I just feel I'm gonna get ahead of myself here, but Starlight Stroll, Alabama, and the last track, Only Live in Your Memories, to me, these feel generally more generic and a little bit derivative. It
Whoa.
like they're it feels kind of like we really peaked with Hiding in the Melody. The album was building up to that, and then it just kind of diffuses for me for the next three tracks. But sticking to this track, Alabama, not the worst still. I still think it captures certain things nicely. Um, but also, yeah, just a little bit flat for me.
Oh my flat. No way. The fiending is back.
It's
Bad. I could understand the distaste for Starlight Stroll, but Alabama? That's like one of the top 3 songs on this album, I think. I think it was often said. They like deviate from the usual solo singer. They add in another kind of deeper, darker one, which here's a little call out. I don't know if anyone knows who Orville Peck is, but it kind of felt reminiscent of him, a country singer. I thought there were strong lyrics in Alabama. It also deviates from the beach vibes, but it just kind of works overall. Maybe that's where you're thinking it's generic, but
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
feel the genericness at all in Alabama. Definitely not at all. Not even in the one after, and Only to Live in Your Memories. But I have to disagree with your generic comment. I just don't agree.
okay. I mean, I guess that's fair, but I just felt like throughout the album there were a lot of missed opportunities, maybe especially in the last three tracks, to maybe pull off something a little bit different or do something new. Which is where I'm a little bit, I guess you could say, in between. Like this is a very strong kind of in the roots alt rock album, And then also a part of me is like, it's a little bit generic in places. And I'll say for me, the generic evidence comes to me in the last 3 tracks. So for me, Alabama is not the worst, but it still feels a little bit generic. And I think that's going to be a point of fiending for us at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no way I agree with that genericness. Like I
Okay.
I don't want to get ahead of myself because we're definitely gonna fiend about this in the album review.
Yeah.
But like I don't think Night Moves is generic at all. In fact, I think they're the opposite. I think they're super creative. But that's all I'm gonna say
I
for
think
now.
there's
That's
some
all I'm gonna
more
say.
creative.
I have more to say, Rashab. I have more to say, but I'm
Okay,
saving it.
I
Trust
will
me,
let
I'm
you
saving it.
speak this time. All right. Let's just go into the last track, Mateo.
Yeah. Last
Let's start
track.
with you.
Now, Only to Live in Your Memories. This was, at least the intro was, a space song. I mean, this was like a space western,
Yeah.
baby, man. Come on, space western. No genericness at all. To me, it blends everything together so tightly. Not space western. What were you gonna say? What were you
No,
gonna
yeah,
say?
kind of. I just you sound so passionate about this track, and I think it's not bad. Again, I don't think the album is bad by any means. I liked it. It's just I'm not feeling as passionate about it as you.
I don't know. Rashab, I got one question. One
Yeah,
question.
go for it.
Did you listen with the lyrics up? Did you listen with the lyrics up?
I did not, but
Oh my! Of course, you're gonna think it's generic then, dude. Because I'm gonna say this track, "Only Live in Your Memories." I thought it was absolutely great lyrics, poetic. To me, this song was about like the story of struggle of love. Like, I honestly think you should re-listen
that's
and
fair.
listen to the lyrics. Just like you're kind of missing out. Because I know personally for me, if I don't have the lyrics up, I kind of zone out and I kind of just vibe with it. But when I have the lyrics up, I actually kind of more resonate with it. And especially an album like this, and especially a track like this, I think it deserves kind of to look into it. You know,
Yeah,
the
I
deep
think
side
that's
into
fair.
it.
I will say, like instrumentally though, it was fine. Like I'm not harping on any of these, even these last 3 tracks. I don't want to sound overly harsh, but I also don't want to sound like overly generous. I think overall, it's to me, it felt like these last 3 tracks kind of drag the album down the most for me. But they're not terrible. I wouldn't mind listening to them, and I didn't mind listening to them. I think they're solidly done alt rock tracks overall. But to say they're supremely creative, I don't know if I would go so far. I think it's just solidly well done for the most part, but nothing out of the ordinary is, I guess, the best way to phrase it.
I'm not going to defend Starlight Stroll, but Alabama and
Okay.
Only Live in Your Memories were definitely creative, Rashab. They just
Okay.
were.
All
And
right,
I
Mateo.
mean the album as a whole, basically, except for like "Leave Your Light On" and the Starlight Stroll. Like, I think there was so much creativity in this album. Sorry, Rashab. Go back to whatever you were saying.
Well, overall, I'll just close out this track with saying I agree with Space Western. Maybe it's a stretch for me, but I appreciated the electronic instrumentation. Sort of like a pop rock song, and it's a decently strong finale. But again, for me, after Hiding in the Melody was done, I was ready to listen to either something much better or for the album to basically end, maybe. So I think that leads us. Oh, it's
I
pretty
have to
well.
go with my
Go,
album
go,
review,
go.
dude. Pennied Days has a couple of just I know. The years to come, I definitely will be coming back to. And whether it's summer, doesn't matter. I know I said peachy, but like I will come back and
Yeah,
blend it all together. And to me, when they get creative, honestly, that's when I feel Night Moves shines the most. I can understand you saying generic for maybe like Leave Your Light On or Starlight Stroll, but otherwise, honestly, for most of these tracks, I feel when they deviate from the regular alt rock kind of path, that is actually when they get the most creative. You know, it's like I will say, like I said, there are a few forgettable songs, but no bad ones. There's none that I would just like say turn off if someone put them
yeah,
on.
yeah. I
Yeah.
agree.
I think overall, I think this album is definitely worth a listen.
Mhm.
You have to check out more of their stuff too. They have like 2 other albums, some really good other songs. If you want an indie surf space rock, I think you found it with this album. I know you might disagree, but for me personally, I'm giving Pennied Days an 8 out of 10.
Yeah,
Rob,
I think
go
we
ahead.
agree. I think we agree more than you think. I don't know if it's coming out.
Okay. I
I,
think, I mean, you're sounding a little harsh for Rob. That's all
maybe
I'm
I
saying.
am. Maybe I am. I'm a little bit. I would say I'm teetering on the edge a little bit, but I would say from Carl Sagan all the way down to Hiding in the Melody, I was really into the album, really enjoying it, appreciating the instrumentation, really enjoying the mixing, loving the vocals. I thought the vocals, I think, is one of the highlights. Like I said, probably number two to how good the mixing is. Um, I like alt rock a lot. I like what this genre is, no matter how it's been categorized in so many different ways. Um, and overall, I think the album has its strengths for sure. And I think it plays really, really well to those strengths. I think the band and the artist and the lead vocalist play well to those strengths. There's a lot of songs and tracks here that play to the strengths of clearly the vocalists, to the instruments that are being used. So it's a good synergy that's happening. I've mentioned the last 3 tracks. It might be because of the placement of them after my like favorite like song, and it's sort of this big opus song, and then having these 3 that I personally didn't really feel a connection with either on an instrumental level or a vocal level, just felt a little bit underwhelming to me after that track. But I will say, I've been hinting to her this throughout, is it's a little bit of I'm a little bit in between. I think there's things that could have been done better, but at the same time, I think it's a solidly made album that I would definitely re-listen in the future. And yeah, I'm not super harsh on it, Mateo. I'm actually you
Okay.
said 8 out of 10, right? So I would
Yeah, I give it
probably
8 out of 10.
go. I'm probably somewhere between a 7 and 7.5, but I'll go with 7.5.
No 0.5s. Shab, it's a
Yes,
7 or an 8.
yes,
Go 7 or 8.
yes.
7 or 8.
I'm going with a 0.5, Mateo. I
Give it
feel
an
like
8. Give it
this
an 8. Give it an
this
8. Give it an
more
8.
accurately. No, if I'm giving it a whole number, then it would be a 7 technically. But really, everybody has listened. It's a 7.5. 7 is way too harsh. 8 is way too nice. I'm at
No,
7.
Rashab, I'm telling you now, you have to pick 7 or 8, dude. Just
All
think
right.
back to Hiding in the Melody. Rashab, don't think of you can agree with me on
Mateo,
the
you
album
asked for
review. Our
this.
numbers can be different.
You asked for this. It's a
I'm
7.
I don't okay. I prefer
Okay.
7 over some weird 0.5 stuff.
Fine.
I can't trust the 0.5, Rashab. Can't trust the 0.5.
All right, fine. All right, guys. It's a 7. Wink
7.
7.5.
No, it's a 7, Rashab.
But 8 and 7, I think, is it's not one of our highest average ratings, but it's pretty.
No, I definitely think it's up there. I mean, compared to what?
Yeah, it's up there.
It's definitely not our, you know, the worst one, and it's definitely not
No,
up there, but especially compared to what Kiss Me last week.
yeah, that was
That was
crazy.
definitely that was insane. But I honestly before we didn't start recording, I did think you were gonna go to like the 6 to 7 to 8 range. I was
Yeah.
hoping for an 8, maybe even 9. But
Whoa. No,
I'm satisfied with your 7. I'm
thank
satisfied.
you. I honestly, this is not like a criticism. This is actually like just a fact overall. Is that I think there was a point in my life when I was a lot younger where I was really, really into alt rock albums. I think I would have really enjoyed that album at that phase of my musical listening life. And I still do like this album, but maybe a younger me would have rated this a little bit earlier.
A
Higher.
little higher.
Maybe,
Okay. Maybe I
potentially.
need
But
Rashaba from a couple years ago. Huh.
maybe.
I
You
need a
need
new
to think.
host.
You need to get into
Younger.
a time machine. All
Yeah,
right.
I'll get right on that. Rashab, I think it's that time.
It is. It's 12:36 a.m. here, uh, which
Not what I
means
meant, but yes.
yeah. Well, this is just to prove that I'm literally just delirious today. Uh, but Mateo, my next album pick. Look, I'm
Ooh.
honest, man. I changed my album pick a lot this past week.
I know, because I'd
weeks.
actually seen your album picks.
Yes.
I follow you on Spotify, and I was like, Rishabh, no way, change it. So I hope you
Yes.
changed it.
And the only reason
good.
we changed it is because we try to like know nothing about each other's album picks, and Mateo happened to see my
Yeah.
Spotify activity and randomly guessed that
Complete accident. Yeah.
is that your album pick? And I said yes. Well, we'll pick that some other time. But anyway, Mateo, we're gonna take a little detour into a little genre I like to call contemporary bluegrass. Are you ready?
Whoa.
Yes.
Okay.
Things are gonna get interesting. So this is probably one of the biggest band names in contemporary bluegrass right now. Its frontman is probably like the face of bluegrass right now, actually. Chris Steele. Hopefully I pronounced that name correctly. But the album is called, and let me try and get this pronunciation as close to accurate as possible. The Phosphorescent Blues by the Punch Brothers. They're not actual brothers, but
Okay. Useful information. The
and
Phosphorescent
Mateo, I'll
Blues.
just prime you with this. You thought our 7-minute track was long? Wait till this album opens with a 10-minute track.
Oh no.
Get ready.
Rishabh, I am not ready.
Yeah,
Punch
you better
Brothers.
get
I don't know.
ready.
I don't remember what the album's called. You said something about blues, phosphorus. I don't know. I've never heard of these guys. I'm not
Get your periodic table.
against blues,
It's
so I'm
not.
intrigued. This isn't
It's
like I don't think it's a mean
bluegrass.
pick, but bluegrass, whatever.
Okay. Very different, but all right.
I have like no emotion. I was like dumbfounded when you said bluegrass, Punch Brothers stuff. I have nothing to really say.
I will
I guess
say
I'm not excited. I'm not dreading it. I'm just okay.
yeah,
Okay,
I
Rishabh.
think it'll be an interesting discussion. I'm gonna hold my words for now and hopefully just see you on the next episode and talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, today's episode was fun. We had a little bit of a late night fiending, always healthy for me and Mateo.
True. Can never be.
Not
And there's
not
not a
not
wrong time to fiend.
not too much fiending, I would say. Pretty decent amount.
Okay. It sounded like we were fiending. I wish
A
we
little
weren't
bit.
as much, but maybe
Maybe
you sound a little harsher.
maybe next
You mean.
episode. Maybe possible that maybe after like between the hours of like 12 and 2, I'm just a harsh person. I'm just like
So you might
harsh on
be. You might
everything.
be.
Possible.
Anyways,
right.
I think this kind of wraps it all up.
Yes, it does.
Thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you,
Be
Craig.
sure to like the video or comment or something. Thank you for our loyal followers like Craig, who helps
Craig
out a
is
bunch.
amazing.
Thank you again. I want to shout out my friend Joe. Thank you for putting Pennied Days onto me. Thank you.
Yep,
I really
thank you,
do like this
Joe.
album.
Sweet.
Shab, I think this is it.
I think
All right,
this is.
everyone. Take care.
See ya.